Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. Let's do this thing. I am Gabriel Morency, and we're going to tee off and set you up for the UFC Fight Night 46 this Saturday in Dublin, Ireland. Now, we're getting slaughtered here tonight. We're going head-to-head with the original airing of this program, going head-to-head with UFC Fight Night 45, so we'll concentrate and break down Fight Night 46. There's a lot of other stuff to get to as well. Holm officially signs with the UFC. And as critical as I was of the UFC and Dana White for quote-unquote protecting Ronda Rousey from Cyborg Santos, bringing in Holm is a positive step, and Gina Carano reportedly will be next, and eventually Cyborg Santos will be in the rotation as well. So as much as going to rip the UFC for not signing Cyborg, job well done in getting Holm into the company. So we got a lot of stuff to break down, a lot of fights to break down. Without further ado, let's send it to Costa Rica. Joey Oddessa, the premier combat sport odds maker in the business, joins us. Joey, it's always a pleasure. How you doing?
What's happening, G? Busy week.
Yeah, we're doing all right, Joey. It is a busy week. So, we'll just sort of got to bypass what's going on Wednesday. But that's why I tell people, whenever there's a Wednesday card, that's why you got to tune in to SiriusXM, MMA Meltdown Radio, Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock, channel 167. We break down all the fights and all the prelims. But on tonight's program, Joey, we'll take a look at the main card here in Ireland. But before we do, you're a longtime boxing guy. Holm signs with the UFC. It seems like this woman had a belt in basically every boxing federation there was, Joey. Pretty prestigious boxer. How good is she, in your opinion, in mixed martial arts?
She's going to contend. I mean, her stand-up, she's a southpaw. I mean, her stand-up is excellent, but she's not going to beat Ronda. I mean, she would have to really catch Ronda. She wasn't known for being a puncher. She was like 32-2. She's been stopped twice in her boxing matches, as recently as 2011 in her hometown in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then she rattled off 3 straight before going into the MMA. But so she's beatable. I wouldn't mind seeing her fight, Christiane Santos, Cyborg, or whatever you want to call her. Be a good stand-up battle, but, Holly will outbox her, so definitely outbox her. I mean, Christine's just going to have to outmuscle her and wrestle her and grapple her. I mean, Holly's getting better on the ground, I guess, working with Greg Jackson and them, but, it's a good addition to the women's division. I mean, by 2016, you're going to see all kinds of women stepping up for the women's MMA.
Well, and each one of these contenders, I think Kat Zingano would be competitive with Ronda Rousey. I'm not going to sit here and say anyone's going to beat Ronda right now. The question is, how much longer is Ronda going to be in the company for? Is she going to knock down these contenders one by one in a Holm and a Gina Carano and then maybe potentially a Cyborg Santos? I don't think they'd want to put Santos in there with Holm. I don't think Dana would mind getting Santos beaten, but I don't think they want to get Holm beaten, because I think they want to have the All-American blonde girl taking on the other All-American blonde girl in Ronda Rousey. But also, Joey, bringing in Carano, bringing in Holm, they're sort of setting themselves up as well. So if Ronda Rousey decides to bolt and just do movies in Hollywood, they're not stuck with nobody in the women's division.
Well, I think it's going to happen. I mean, if they can keep from getting Holly beat, I mean, she's known as the preacher's daughter. She's out of Albuquerque. I mean, Jackson's got a huge presence there. I mean, this fight in Vegas sells. It sells in California. Obviously, it would sell in New Mexico, but I don't know why they put it there. There's no need to.
And honestly, right now, women's MMA is probably the division that gets the most publicity right now. Let's be honest. I mean, Chris Weidman's a great fighter, but he's not a household name. He's people aren't talking about him. The mainstream media doesn't care about Chris Weidman. They don't care about Aldo. They don't care about Cain Velasquez. So, like it or hate it, and I know a lot of people behind the scenes, a lot of people like the women's fighting, but I know a lot of fighters behind the scenes are resentful of the attention that it's receiving right now. But the bottom line is, it's the only thing in the UFC that's getting any attention right now, Joey.
I think it's great. I mean, in the beginning, when the women, when it started out, I was like, I wasn't really, really big on it. But now that you're getting Olympians in there, I mean, you had Sarah McMahon in there. You also have, you know, some of these Japanese wrestlers, you know, the girl who beat Sarah McMahon, a 3-time Olympic champ out of Japan, I mean, you never know. I mean, there's Megumu Fuji, you know, she retired, unfortunately, before before the UFC started the women's division up, really, and she got gobbled up by Bellator. But, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there for a lot of these women wrestlers, judo, boxing. I mean, you know, arguably, you know, Holly, she's got 2 losses on her record, and, you know, Cecilia Brækhus, she can always go back to boxing and fight her. But at the same time, I think, you know, that Brækhus would beat Holm in a boxing match. You know, most of Holm's, well, in fact, all Holly's bouts were in New Mexico and on the West Coast, and she's never really been overseas, so she's got a future there. Or some of these women coming over. I mean, boxing's huge in Germany, the women's boxing. So you're gonna have a lot of, you're gonna have a lot of people entering into the sport when they start seeing there's more money there.
Joey Oddessa with us. All right, Joey. So let's dive in here. Conor McGregor, often hyped Conor McGregor, and you know he's one of the UFC golden boys, in which they hope he turns into a meal ticket for them. You know, he's only had 2 fights in the UFC, so it's obviously that he's a hype machine. He's lost a couple of times. He's not invincible. I always get a kick out of Dana White saying you can't walk into a sports bar in Boston or Dublin without seeing a Conor McGregor poster. And I always say that's because you sent the posters to the bar as part of the marketing machine. They've done a good job marketing this guy. I don't think they want to get him beat. He was supposed to fight Cole Miller. Cole Miller's out. Diego Brandao is in, Ultimate Fighter winner. McGregor's been off for 336 days, nearly a year, Joey. And what I find to be interesting in reading the pre-fight facts that are out there for this fight, that Conor McGregor, two of the 3 times that he's fought in the UFC, he's taking on a guy coming off a loss, which is pretty much unheard of in the UFC, Joe. You know that Joe Silva, they match up winners versus winners, losers versus losers. Except when you're Conor McGregor, you get a guy that lost because they want to build you. Brandao's a decent fighter. You know, he's probably a better fighter in the street than he actually is in the octagon, even though he's pretty good in the octagon as well. You know, hopefully he doesn't threaten to stop, McGregor like he did with Poirier, but he gasses Joey. I don't think McGregor's worth the hype. I think McGregor's going to get beat when he fights a real tough guy, and they're not protecting him. But I don't think Diego Brandao is the guy to do it.
Well, right now, I mean, McGregor's carrying this Ireland card, but he's got 2 losses on his record. I mean, granted, they go back, you know, to 2010, but he does have 2 losses, both by submission. And I like to see him get in there with a good wrestler with a good chin. And the other thing is, you know, and I'll be criticized for saying it, but 12 of his wins are by KO, and he's a 145-pounder, which would be, you know, a welterweight in the boxing division. And if his hands are really that good, you know, I mean, look, MMA's MMA and boxing's boxing, 2 different sports, but he's, you know, predominantly a stand-up fighter, and, you know, he's beatable. He's lost twice already. Now, I'm not saying that Brandao's going to beat him, but coming off the layoff, weighing, you know, the odds on him, he's about a 4.5 to 1 favorite. He's supposed to win this fight. You know, Brandao's got, 9 losses on his record. He's got about a 66% win percentage. Well, he's, 18-9. But he does have, he does have 5 submission wins on his record, and it's very possible. But he's also been knocked out 5 times too. So you can see that they put him in with a chinny guy who does have some subs. I mean, it's not an unwinnable fight. I mean, he can win, you know. But a guy, you know, it'd be interesting to see him get in there with somebody like Elkins or somebody that can wrestle. You know, that's where we're really going to see McGregor. You know, what McGregor's got. I mean, in the year layoff, and you know, I don't want to call it hype because that's a really overused word along with the word overrated. But he hasn't, you know, he did beat Max Holloway, but he hasn't done that much yet to, you know, they're building, you know, he's building himself up by winning. He keeps winning, he'll build himself up, and at some point, you know, he'll either become real good, but I don't think he'll ever be a UFC champ.